Hey everybody, welcome back to lesson 9. Today I'm going to be talking about letting go of resentment and offense and staying free from these two things in your walk of walking in forgiveness. So I know I've talked about bitterness, I've talked about jealousy. I want to bring up resentment and offense as its own separate lesson because these are very common things that happen. They turn into the roots of bitterness. And so I want to go over this very quickly in this lesson. So again, we need to be paying attention to our baselines. When we know I'm normally feeling this way, but then you can tell when something's been triggered. You can tell when you're off of your baseline. So if you live a life of constantly being up and down, up and down, up and down, you're not going to tell where's your baseline, you know? So get into a place where you are in a schedule, where you are in a routine, and then start tracking your baseline. And, all right, forgiveness is something that we do for ourselves. Yeah, it really is. And I hope that that is becoming more and more clear as you work through these exercises where it's like, wow, I alone get to decide the outcome of my life, and holding on to these issues that have happened to me, or not forgiving these people who have hurt me, is really hindering the kind of life that I want to be having. So resentment is the process of repeatedly replaying a feeling and the events leading up to it that angers us. When we think about the wrong, we don't simply replay the facts that we resent, we re-experience and relive them in ways that affect us emotionally, physiologically, and spiritually in very destructive ways. We've actually proven this with science. Every time that you think about something that was done to you that you are still holding on to unforgiveness for, your brain is actually releasing into your body a host of chemicals. And depending on how much and when they're released, these can start to build up in your system, and you're going to start to have health issues because of this. There's a biophysical reaction that's happening with your brain releasing these chemicals into your body. For example, this is exactly why people with high blood pressure, how this occurs. It's not just simply that it doesn't just like magically happen. It's because they keep reliving it, and then their brain is releasing cortisol into their body, and their body is storing it up in the bloodstream, which raises their blood pressure. And so, again, this is why people are able to have heart attacks easily, even though they're so young. A lot of times this is rooted back into unforgiveness. We're not just, when we relive these things, I'm just not like reading a stop sign, like that stop sign is red with white letters. No, I'm having an emotionally charged reaction. It's like I'm experiencing it again. And if I re-experience that same thing over and over and over, let's say 5 times in the day, 10 times in a day, 20 times in a day, over and over and over, do you see how unforgiveness really harms your physical body, not to mention everything else, right? Because your emotions, these hormones that are released as well, they play into your emotional response. Now you're yelling at people, you're reacting to things, maybe you're crying because of something. There's all of these things are happening because of the unforgiveness. Okay, so you're also more likely to get triggered by other things. So if you are holding on to unforgiveness, the next time somebody makes you feel anywhere remotely close to those emotions that you felt because of that instance that you're holding the unforgiveness around, you're going to react in a crazy way, and you're going to put your body back into a position of experiencing that with another person now. So now you're having more bad memories, right? It's like, oh, now you're yelling at this person. Now you're like, nope, that happened twice. And you're thinking it's the outside world, when really you're the one who's putting yourself into these situations because you won't deal with the forgiveness issue over here from the first time that you experience that pain or that hurt. Okay, so the most common reasons for resentment are that we feel what people did to us was unnecessarily mean, hurtful, or thoughtless. We feel people in our lives did not do for us that we feel or believe they should have done, or we feel people in our lives have not done enough for us just in general. So These are basically the reasons for resentment. So if you feel like, yes, you can think of some things that go into those categories, I would see if you are feeling resentment towards any of those people or those situations that you may have been into. Again, forgiveness ultimately stems from the fact that we are clinging to our right to be right. I am so right in this situation. I'm just going to be right. Is being right in this situation worth all of these health issues, all of these emotional issues, all of these relational issues that you're going to suffer, you know, from not releasing that one instance or that period of time, even, you know, in some cases, needing to release that period of time into forgiveness. So we are punishing ourselves big time by living with this. When we don't let go of resentment, we will live with it, and it will bring us chronic punishment, pain, and prevent us from building up other relationships that are based on love, support, trust, and reciprocation. We can't expect somebody to give to us what we can't give. So that causes a lot of frustration as well. You know, again, we have unmet expectations. Usually they're silent ones. We never voice them out loud. And then when somebody can't give it to us, we're angry. And it's like, you're not capable of meeting that need in your own self. What makes you think that somebody else is going to be able to meet it for you? You're not able to give that to your own self. You have to give it to your own self first before somebody else can. Let me read to you this quote about resentment. The moment you start to resent a person, you become his slave. He controls your dreams, absorbs your digestion, robs you of your peace of mind and goodwill, and takes away the pleasure of your work. He ruins your religion and nullifies your prayers. You cannot take a vacation without his going along. He destroys your freedom of mind and hounds you wherever you go. There is no way to escape the person you resent. He is with you when you are awake. He invades your privacy when you sleep. He is close beside you when you drive your car and when you are on the job. You can never have efficiency or happiness. He influences even the tone of your voice. He requires you to take medicine for indigestion, headaches, loss of energy, and heart disease. He even steals your last moment of consciousness before you go to sleep. So if you want to be a slave, harbor your resentments. I love this quote so much because it is so accurate. It is so accurate. We think, well, if I hold on to it, then all these other things are happening to the other person. No, those things are happening to you. The other person, again, like the Grinch story, they're probably going along with their merry lives. So we've got to learn to let go of this. And now I want to talk really quickly about offense, which is, you know, I'm happy about it because it's becoming a hot topic to speak about in religious settings, because I have come across some very offended religious people, right? And so again, this is not saying like, okay, there are things that are offensive, right? We have things that are called like offensive language or offensive behavior. Absolutely, no problem with that. The problem is when we think, when we are offended at a pronoun, when we are offended at the phrase ladies and gentlemen or hey guys, right? I don't have time for that. That's annoying. That's so frustrating. And so offenses can start as little as that. They can start as little as that. And you'll see this happening in your own life because you'll notice, okay, something like kind of hits you off with a person, for example, that you just met. They say something that kind of rubs you the wrong way. Well, now you're going to have your eye on that person. You're going to really be seeing, is that person trying to, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to irritate me? Or are they trying to, what are they trying to do to me? And I bet you the next time that you meet that person, you're going to find another thing that they did that really irritates you. And now you know for sure that they're out to get you. And we start making a list. We start building up a storehouse of all of the reasons that we have to be offended by them and what they're doing. And we just continue to keep adding it to it. That's the way that this all starts, is we just believe that they're against us when really it could just be their personality. Again, not everybody is self-aware. They're not aware that they're, you know, hurting somebody else, or that they're saying something that's offensive to another person. They just don't, they're not aware. And so when you are also not mature enough to say like, I'm not letting that thing offend me. I don't care what you say to me. Even if it was meant to hurt me, I'm not going to allow it, because I'm the one who gets to decide what to do, how to appropriate that word or that behavior that you did to me. I'm the one who gets to appropriate where it goes and how it affects me. Okay, so again, this can actually physically rewire your brain into negative pathways of thinking. The more that you think negatively, the more you're going to think negatively. The more you think positively, the more you're going to think positively. And it has to do with the brain wants to go, our thoughts want to travel on the path that has the least resistance in it. So if most of our thoughts are negative, we are more able and easily can make negative thoughts fast. And if we think positively, then that's going to be our second nature. It's literally just going to be the way that we view the situation. It's not even going to occur to us to think about it in a negative situation because there isn't a pathway for our brain to form that down. And it takes 63 days for your brain to make a pathway that is cemented. That means that is now an easy pathway for it to travel down. It takes 63 days to do that. So this is why you got to be committed to it. If you go on and off, you're going to have that like double-mindedness where it's like, well, some days I'm in a good mood and some days I'm in a bad mood. And that's why. It's literally why. You've done it to your own brain. All right, well, one thing that I like to keep in mind in my own life is that my standard of measurement against another person is going to be my standard of measurement. So I try to be pretty graceful because I'm aware that I need a lot of grace. And I don't want to set my own self up for failure. You know, I want to be able to give, I know that I need a lot of grace and I want to be able to give that to myself. Compassion is one of the most necessary things that we carry. You know, I might be an amazing speaker, but is it because I love the ones that I'm speaking to? I might be an amazing doctor, but we all want a doctor that has good bedside manner. And the reason that I bring this up is because when you have compassion for other people, it's harder to get offended by them. You know, instead of being offended by the person who says something rude to me, it's like, I just feel so much love for them. I have so much compassion for them because I'm sad that they think that that's appropriate. I'm sad that that's the only way that they can express themselves. You know, that's a shame. And so I just want you to think about other perspectives that you could have on the situation too. Lots of people get offended when they are being corrected, even when they are being corrected in love. I have heard this about offenses. They're like headlights when you're driving down the road. Everybody has them, but you only get to see somebody else's. And in fact, this came to me when I was driving with a friend. I was driving, she's in the passenger seat. She says, that person's headlights are so bright. They have the brights on. And they never did turn them off. You know, they didn't move them down. And I think that they were just the regular headlights. I think they were just those halogen, you know, super bright ones. And I just thought, like, that is so funny because I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder if they're thinking the same thing. Like, hey, that's rude, lady. Turn down your brights. You know, and that's how offenses isn't it? It's like, no, we're driving amazing. We're over here running our lives without any offenses. We never offend anybody. But everybody else around us, well, they've got their offensive bright lights on. This is why walking with Holy Spirit is so vital, because we got to be able to pick out the plank in our own eyes before we start picking apart the speck in somebody else's. And we got to be open to correction as well, because that is absolutely in God's plan for us, and you're never going to grow without correction. We all have areas that we need to be corrected in. So there are people who do care about you and who do truly want you to succeed. And one thing, unfortunately, that I've discovered with my clients is that when they start to have a lot of offenses that have built up, they start associating it with a whole group of people. So all men are this way, or all police officers, or all, you know, whatever. The whole group is out to get them, essentially. You know, and this is such a shame because obviously, one, that's not true, but second, you're missing out on the opportunity, because what if somebody in that group was a person who would connect you to your destiny? What if somebody in that group was the one who was supposed to usher you into your next season of life? You know, there's so many possibilities there that we ourselves are not open to receiving. And again, we can't receive if our hearts are filled with all of this bitterness and resentment and offense. There's no place to put anything good in there. So We often shut the door to our own miracles, to the things that we're praying for because of unforgiveness. And throughout the Bible, it's talked about this way. We can't receive because we haven't forgiven, right? When we forgive others, then we are forgiven, and then we receive the blessings from that forgiveness. All right, so and you're also going to find more reasons to be offended. When you start doing it, it's like, nope, I've got more. You're never going to have a shortage. And this is true, good or bad. It's that same principle of reaping and sowing. When I reap something good, I'm going to sow. When I sow something good, I'm going to reap something good. When I sow something that's bitterness, I'm going to come back with bitterness. And the same thing with offenses. Oh, that was an offense. If I label it, guess what? I've just sowed it out my mouth in words, and I'm going to reap it back. I found another thing to be offended for, and I keep sowing and keep reaping that way. You see why it's so important to rewire your brain, to renew your mind, and to start speaking out the words of heaven? This is why. You literally get to create your world with your words. Okay, so here are 9 ways to kick out the bitterness and the resentment and offenses. Recognize resentment for what it is, toxic and addictive. The more time you spend with it, the harder it is to kick it, just like with any addiction. It is literally, again, making your brain want to do something. Even if you now decide, I don't want to do that, it's going to be hard to rewire your brain. It's going to require commitment. Realize and acknowledge that you cannot change the past. No matter what you do, the past has already happened. That's already occurred. I can have that story redeemed, and that time can be redeemed. I can use that bad thing that happened to me in the past to serve me now in my present and in my future, but I can't change the fact that that thing happened to me. That thing has happened to me, and it's part of my story whether I want it to be or not. So you better find a way for that thing to start serving you instead of you to keep serving it. Resentment can have impacts on your relationships with people in your life right now. Acknowledge that you cannot control those who have rejected you. Recognize that your resentment gives you only illusions of strength. Yep. Learn to identify signals that provoke resentment. Again, know your baseline, right? Acknowledge your part in allowing the abuse, the argument, or whatever to occur. Again, this doesn't apply if you were a kid. Absolutely no excuse for it. There's nothing that you could have done. However, a lot of times we get ourselves into these situations because we never took care of the way that we were once we were an adult, or once we were old enough to make our own decisions. We never took care of the way that we were thinking, the way that we process events that happen to us in life. We never took the time to say, like, I have a bad method of processing life's events. We never took time to do that. And so by recognizing, like, that's my issue. My issue is that I automatically have negative thinking habits built into my brain. I need to figure out how to, renew that, so I have the habit of thinking positively instead of negatively. When you can identify that in your own self, it's like that gives you something that you can do different, so you don't have to keep repeating the same thing over and over. Step 8, declare an amnesty with the person you resent and with yourself. This is a really good one when your mind starts to spin. You've got to learn how to shut off those. When you start replaying it, well, they're going to say this, and then I say this, and in the end scenario, you always win, don't you? When these things start to come through your mind, you got to shut them off because they're not helpful. It's continuing the toxic cycle of still dumping all of those chemicals, all the hormones from your brain into your body. Your body is storing them up in your blood. They're causing effects not just in the way that your brain works, but also in the way that your body works, and not even to mention what it's doing in the spirit realm to your soul and your spirit. So declare amnesty. Nope, I've already done that. I've already taken care of that. You have to get into the habit of shutting those things down. You're in control of your own mind. Nobody can make you think those things. So you're in control of it. You say, I'm not going to think those things, and then speak that out loud. I remember those 4 steps that I went through a couple lessons ago. And number 9, be confident in who you are and who God created you to be. You need to have fun and laugh at yourself. Yes, life is supposed to be fun. So when you know who you are, when you have a healthy identity and you're fully rooted in it, nothing can take you off of that, and life becomes more fun because it's less stressful of trying to manage all of the things. Oh, I don't want to be triggered over here, and that person, I got to avoid them. And, it's just too much. When you're fully aware of who you are, You have predetermined choices that you've made. You're committed to certain things. Life is easy. Life is easy, and it's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be simple because we're supposed to be able to have the connections that we need to have in our lives. The highway with God, the communication lines are open, and the communication lines with other people are supposed to be open as well. But that comes only once you know who you are, whose you are, and what you're here to do. What is your purpose? All right, so this is going to end this lesson. I will see you next lesson in lesson 10.